Well, welcome back to Life on Cars. You join me back in the big Jaguar XK today, and it's MOT day, MOT inspection. So if you've been watching the recent videos, you'll have known that we're coming up to the 1 year anniversary of owning this lovely car. And for those of you watching outside of the UK, every year in the UK, for cars that are over 3 years old, they have to go for a MOT test or an annual inspection. So that's where we're going today in the Jag. We're keeping our fingers crossed that everything should be okay, but you know, even when you've been in the motor trade as long as I have, you still get nervous about taking your pride and joy for an MOT test because, well, there's only so much you can look at on the floor using jacks and axle stands, but when you actually get the vehicle up in the air and inspect it properly, things that might have been missed can crop up. But I'm feeling fairly confident. I think this car's in good shape, so it should go through its test all right. But what I thought I'd do, there's a couple of things that you can do in preparation for the MOT, which will make life a bit easier for the MOT tester. It might help to put the MOT tester in a good mood as well. So let's run through a few of those today on this video. So what we want to do is we want to start off by clearing any rubbish out of the car that's going to distract from the for the MOT tester or get in the way of the MOT tester. So get rid of all the rubbish off the floor and clear out any old cups or from McDonald's or anything like that, and present the car in a nice clean way. Now the next thing I do is I always take the seat belts for all the seats in the car, and I have a good look and just make sure that there's no rips in the seat belts, because that would be an MOT fail. And then what I do is I plug them all in, and I leave them plugged in for the MOT tester to see. It just means the MOT tester doesn't need to be struggling to find where all your seat belts plug in, because you've already got them plugged in. And then the MOT tester can check all the webbing front and back and check that the belt buckles and everything works. So there's tip number one. So for many years I used to work as an MOT tester in the garage that I worked at for many years, and I'll tell you what, there's nothing more kind of that screams neglect of a vehicle when you get into a vehicle to do an MOT test and the interior is littered with rubbish and it's dirty. Straight away you're thinking that's basically somebody who doesn't care about this car. So why would they care about things like the tyres or maintenance? So you're kind of already in the mindset thinking the car's in such a mess inside that chances are it's probably going to have some issues mechanically, and this is the mindset that you would have as an MOT tester. So this is why I'm saying present the vehicle in as clean as condition as you can for the MOT test, because it gets it off to a good start, and it'll help the MOT tester to get into the right frame of mind to test the vehicle. It's a bit like when you take your car for some tyres to a tyre fitter. If they have to rummage through a load of rubbish to find your locking wheel nut key, it just gets them in a bad mood straight away. You know, you should find your locking wheel nut key and put it in the center console ready for them. And it's just these little things to help the mechanics and the technicians that are working on your vehicles, because it's a hard enough job for them as it is, but to have to route through vehicles and work with vehicles that are full of rubbish. So there's a a real good tip from an ex-MOT tester to get your MOT off to a good start. Tip number 2, make sure that there's nothing on your windscreen on the inside, no stickers in the way, especially if there's anything round the driver's side. There should be no stickers down this side of the window or in the driver's view, if you like, in front of the steering wheel. Also, take anything that's dangling from the interior mirror off as well, because it might be that the tester decides that that's distracting you from the view out of the front of the vehicle. So just remove any general stuff that shouldn't be in here in the windscreen. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, check that there's no chips or damage to the windscreen, especially in the front of the driver, because anything bigger than about 5mm will be a fail. So there's no point in taking your car in for an MOT if you've got damage to your windscreen in the form of a large chip bigger than 5mm or thereabouts in diameter. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4, check your windscreen wiper rubbers. So you need to actually get your hand underneath the rubber and just make sure it's not hanging off on the windscreen wiper. That's front and back if you've got a rear one as well, both sides. If the wiper rubbers are split, then you need to get them replaced. There's no point in presenting the car for an MOT with split wipers. Remember, after you've done your wiper blade checks, that you do need to check that your wipers actually work, but not just the wipers. Do they actually spray water out of the jets? Now, sometimes the jets are on the wiper blade, like on this Jaguar, and sometimes they're in the bonnet. Does it spray water correctly onto the screen? Because that's something that is checked on MOT. Again, it would need to be repaired if it's not working properly before taking it for a test. Tip number 5, back in the car, do the doors open properly from the inside? So that's all doors. If it's a 4-door vehicle, you need to check all of them. Do they open properly from the inside and the outside? Because if you've got a problem with one of the doors and you can't open it from the inside, then you're heading for an MOT fail. That's tip number 5. Tip number 6, can the MOT tester get to your fuel cap? Because they need to check the fuel cap to see if the seal on the fuel cap is present and correct and working properly. So when did you last check to see if your seal is in good condition? Because if it isn't, another fail. Tip number 6. Tip number 7, go around and check all your lights. Make sure that the bulbs are all working properly, including any reversing lamp. And just pop your hands under there and just check that your number plate lights are working as well. So we need to check to see if this reversing lamp's working and check if the fog lamp's working as well. And get someone to press the brake and see if the brake lights are working. So we reverse. And you should have one fog light on the driver's side on the rear in England, at least one. And of course you need to go around and check all the front lights are working as well. So you should have side lights, main beam, dip beam, front fog lights. Again, get someone to sit in the car and work your way through all them. Just make sure they're all working properly. Again, what's the point in taking the car for an MOT and it could fail on something simple like a bulb that you may have been able to fix before. So there we are, we have a high level brake light, which is the one at the top. And I'm just checking that you've got even light from both rear brake lights. Looking good so far. By the way, if you're ever on your own and you do need to check the brake lights before setting off for a trip, I just use a stick like that. Just prop it on the brake pedal and then prop it on the seat, and that'll put the brake lights on. Tip number 8, you might as well get the bonnet up, because first of all you need to check, does the bonnet lift? Because it may be that it's been a long time since you've been in there and for some reason the bonnet won't release. And again, that would be embarrassing if you took your car for an MOT and the tester couldn't get under the hood. So while you're under it, you might as well top up your washer fluid, just because you don't want that running out while the car's being tested in the workshop. So it's a good idea before going for an MOT to fill that up with fresh water. Tip number 9, tyre inspection. So again, it's worth doing this, you know what I mean? It's one of them where why take a car for a test with tyres that are going to fail, because you know you might as well sort that beforehand. So there's a couple of critical things to look at here. First of all, the sidewall. So you need to have a close inspection and make sure that there isn't any splits or cuts in the sidewall. The other thing that can happen is the sidewalls can start to crack with age. So they start to get small age-related cracking around the edge. Now, if that's bad enough, that would fail the MOT. So you're looking for any cuts, any damage around the full circumference of all 4 tyres, and you're looking for any cracking as well. Then you need to move on to the tread, and what you need is something like this. This is a tread wear indicator, dead easy to use. Basically, you push it into the tyre tread and then it stops at the depth that the tyre's at, and then you can take a reading on here. Now the legal limit in the UK is 1.6 millimeters. Now you will need to get down on your hands and knees for this, because we need to check the full width of the tyre right across. So I'm just looking at my back tyre and I'm taking the tread wear indicator, sticking it down into the tread there, and then I'm going to take a reading. So let's see if this camera will focus in on this. So at the moment there, I'm a little bit below 6 millimeters. I'm probably on about 5 there for that part of the tyre. Let's just go to the middle here, take another reading. Again, that's showing just under 6 millimeters. It's going to go to the other side, to the edge there. Probably about 5. But I've already sort of decided, just by those few measurements, that I'm well within the legal limit on this tyre. Most of the readings are coming out about 5 millimeters. And like I say, the minimum tread depth in the UK is 1.6 millimeters. But it's worth doing these checks anyway for safety reasons before going on a long trip. Now the other thing to mention, which is not as common but can happen, is the tread can be fine, but because of the age of the tyre, as well as the cracking on the sidewall, it is starting to become more common where you do see cracks appearing in the tread. And if an MOT tester sees cracking in the tread of the tyre, then that could potentially be, if it's bad enough, that could be a fail. So you need to be aware that as a tyre gets older, there's more potential for cracking. So just be aware of that. Now the last thing to mention on tyres is the actual tyre valve. Again, a good MOT tester will have a little look at these and just make sure that these have not perished, because again, it is quite common to find tyre valves in poor condition, and if that was the case, it would be an MOT fail. I'm not a fan of these aftermarket caps, these metal caps, because they can seize on these. The plastic caps are better. I'll probably end up changing them, but the previous owner bought these and had them on the car, but I have come across these seizing on before, so just watch out for that. So yeah, it's worth doing your tyre checks. Obviously all four wheels, tread, sidewalls, valves, check for cracks, check for any perishing on the sidewall, which would indicate that the tyre's getting a bit old. Talking of age, all tyres now are marked with a date stamp, so you can see these were made on the 24th week of 2021. So you can quickly look for that code, that date stamp on your tyres, and figure out how old they are. So you may be wondering, well, what is the age limit? Or what's the recommended age limit for a tyre? Well, it depends who you listen to. In my opinion, you certainly wouldn't want to be running any tyres that are older than 10 years old on your vehicle as an absolute limit. If you can afford it, I would say start looking to change the tyres, regardless of the condition of the tread and the sidewall. If they're still looking good, I would be recommending to start to think about changing those tyres if the tyre age is 6 years old or more. Again, it's opinions vary, but especially on a high performance car, I wouldn't really want to be running tyres that are older than 6 years. Horn works, that's good. Just be aware that an MOT tester will look for symbols on the dashboard. So that yellow one there, which is your check engine light, if that's on your vehicle, it's unlikely it's going to pass the test, because that would probably indicate an engine problem, normally emissions related. So it would be doubtful that the car would pass the MOT with that one on. Anything to do with seat belts would also be a fail. So if that light that you can see, the red one there, the seatbelt warning light, if that stays on, then there's problems. Let's just get some of the other ones up. So anything to do with the airbags, which is that one there, that's just gone off. That's another one that has to operate correctly. And then the other thing that testers are looking for, is it over on this side, is the ABS. So on this Jag, the braking system is the yellow one there and the red one. The yellow one is the one that Jaguar use for ABS. So now on your car it might just come up ABS, as in the 3 letters. But again, I mean, general rule of thumb, if you've got a warning light on that stays on the dashboard, then you might as well try and get that sorted before an MOT, because pretty much any warning light that's on all the time is going to be making an MOT tester think that something needs investigating, and it's more than likely going to lead to a fail.
like to say, oh, I've got a leak on the handles.
You know, one of the things about coming to a garage like this, there's always something interesting going on. They've got this Scirocco, the whole engine stripped down. Basically, it's owned by a young man who's been driving it a bit too hard, shall we say, and he's ended up putting a hole through one of the pistons, so it's a big strip down and repair for this Pulley VW Scirocco. It's a really old school garage. This reminds me of where I served my time as a mechanic, and there's always something interesting to see here. And yeah, your typical stores with everything. Yeah, you're alright. Well, guys, it's passed. Oh, no advisories either, which was a good. It actually looks really good underneath this, so I'm really pleased. So that's good news for the trip that I've got planned down to Gaydon, to the British Motor Museum, in a couple of weeks' time. So it's good to know that we've got a nice safety inspection done on the car properly underneath, and it's gone through its MOT, so we're nice and legal for that trip and we're safe. Well, guys, I really hope you got something out of that, found it useful, and obviously there's no way we can go through absolutely everything that is done on an MOT test. We've concentrated on the things that you can do in about half an hour yourselves before you take your vehicle for an MOT, and increase the chances of it getting through the test and getting a pass. If you're interested in a deeper dive on preventative maintenance or some other checks you can do that involve taking wheels off, etc., check out the playlist. We have a playlist on the Jaguar which goes into quite a lot of detail on specific checks for braking systems, under bonnet, etc., wheels, tyres, things like that. So yeah, check out the playlist if you're new to the channel, and if you find something useful, or if you've just enjoyed this video, please give me a like and give us a subscribe as well. It doesn't cost anything, helps me as well to keep going on the channel, and we hope to see you very soon on Life on Cars. Take care and drive safely. Bye bye now.